Hi, teardown time today, and here we've got this very fashionable watch. Of course, something that's lumpy isn't just a watch; it's also a TV. This is actually not very useful nowadays. They've turned the analog TV signal off. I'm just feeding it sort of from the modulator output from a set-top box. Like most of these things, it uses the headphone lead as the antenna, so I've just sort of very crudely coupled a TV signal into it. This dates from about 2005 from a company called NHJ. Fairly impractical, it's about 1 hour battery life. It did actually come with a docking station that you could plug it into to charge the battery and run it from a DC supply. This sort of nice chunky strap, and the thing actually unclips like that. So, oops, seems to have lost the signal. Oh, there we go. So let's see what's inside a little TV like this. And thanks go out to one of my viewers, Chris Trim, for sending me this thing. So it's not particularly useful now in the UK as there's no analog TV broadcast, so donated it to the cause of finding out what's inside stuff. No surprise, the first thing we see is this lithium polymer battery. Used to be stuck to a shielding can. Right, and back here we've got a not ridiculously densely laid out board. Main parts in here is an LV4137. This is an analog LCD drive chip. These TVs like this, and also like the earlier pocket TV type products, the LCD actually had analog drivers, so the actual waveforms applied to the row and column, the actual waveforms applied to the drive on the LCD were actually analog all the way through. There wasn't any digitization process. Also here there's a UPD 6467, which is an on-screen display chip, so that's obviously displaying on-screen graphics and menus, and also that watch display. And under here, this label, rather surprisingly, there's a PIC. There's a PIC 16LF877. Now it's pretty unusual to find sort of PICs in consumer goods of this sort of vintage, and I'm also really surprised at why they needed a part that big for presumably what's just really like user interface control on a pocket TV. It seems, quite a large package, and also, it's not even the smallest PIC in that package in terms of memory, so I really don't understand why they would need anything as big as that. Very peculiar. There's that 4.433, that's going to be a resonator or an oscillator for the colour subcarrier frequency. There's a little chip there, I'm not sure what that is, but looking at the cap and the fact that it's next to the headphone socket, I'm guessing that's probably going to be an audio amplifier. Up here we see the inductor, so this is clearly the power supply circuitry. There's going to be probably control chips on the other side, or there's actually some little chips there, they might be the controllers. And that's about it for this side. Here's the flex cable from the actual LCD module. You've got these fairly thick cables here. These will be for the backlight. This vintage, it will be almost certainly a cold cathode fluorescent backlight, so these are like silicone wires, which are fairly typical for backlight connections. So some of this, possibly that inductor, is for a high voltage backlight inverter. And we've got 3 wires from the battery. There's probably some sort of management or monitoring, perhaps a temperature sense wire or something, to what I'm guessing is probably some little battery management PCB in here. And this battery pack's got a fairly typical protection circuit in there. There's just a little chip and a MOSFET there. There's a device here marked NTC, that'll be a thermistor for measuring the temperature. I can't see a current sensor resistor, so it looks like it's only got the under voltage protection, not over current, but if you draw too much current, chances are the voltage will drop down and trip out the under voltage protection anyway, so that's probably adequate. You can see these wires going into each end, so I'm sure that's going to be a tiny little CCFL tube with some sort of light diffusing arrangement to spread it out. Seem to have turned it on somehow. Suppose it might be worth disconnecting the battery at some point. So I imagine this little LCD is probably the sort of thing that used to be used in things like digital camera and camcorder view, probably more camcorder viewfinders if it's an analog unit. So I'd imagine they use something existing rather than doing a custom job for this. Right, this frame looks like it's soldered into the board, so to do a bit of unsoldering, I think I'll just disconnect the battery first. Right, so on this side we've got a Linear Tech, again that's a little bit of a surprise for a Parish product, LC3455, which is a dual DC-DC converter, but it's also got battery lithium charge management, so that's handling all the batteries and everything. It's got these little buttons down the side, and this is an R4574, which is a real-time clock that's got a built-in crystal, so that's what's doing the time of day watch function. And there's this metal cam which will be the UHF front end. Looks like it unclips. Right, this looks like it's actually a ready-made module. The obvious thing is the PCB is a slightly different colour, and if you look around the edge you can actually see some sort of connection points. So this will be a ready-made tuner module. There's two chips in here. Can't actually find data on either of them. There's a Sony and a Philips chip. Just looking at the position, I'm guessing that'll be the front end amplifier because that's nearest headphone connector, which is being used as the antenna. There's a 16 meg crystal there, and this is probably going to be the PAL decoder. This is going to be a surface acoustic wave filter. These are very commonly used in TV IF stages to provide a very precise filter characteristic. It's like a sort of an acoustic device. It's got piezoelectric elements, and it by the shape and machining of the piezoelectric element they can get very precise filter characteristics, but certainly all throughout sort of 90s onwards these were very, very commonly used in TVs. I'm guessing that may actually, not sure what they exactly, whether the colour decoder on this is likely to be analog or digital, so without finding any info on it, because there's no delay line or anything, that's maybe digital. Looks like a fairly conventional LCD panel, if a bit small. Backlight. It's got various funky optical materials. This is mostly about maximising the brightness. So you can see there's sort of quite a few different there's a diffusion layer and a couple of sort of interesting optical devices. This is mostly about actually sort of making the light punch forwards as much as possible rather than it being wasted sideways. So this is a sort of special pattern film to increase the amount of light that's heading straight forwards up through the LCD. And in the rear we've got the backlight panel. This has got hard to see, but there's like a pattern of silver dots designed to even out the light distribution from the backlight. And obviously a rear reflector to bounce any light that goes back forwards. This is actually a LED backlight. I was just assuming because of the fairly thick silicone leads it was going to be a CFL, but actually it is. It's just a couple of white LEDs. In 2005 is probably around the sort of time when LED backlights were really starting to take over from CFL. Obviously maybe they had lots of the old silicone CFL wiring left they wanted to use up. So that's two little right angle white LEDs there. And the actual glass looks like there's another layer of metal. Yeah. So for some reason this is in a double-sided frame, it doesn't actually seem to be holding anything together. You've got the fairly conventional tape sort of heat sealed onto the glass there. Actually no components or anything else. I think this is almost certainly an analog drive LCD, so it probably needs all sorts of funky voltages. Quite most modern LCDs you see a few components on here which are usually sort of charge pumps, and quite often a driver chip on here as well, but this looks like there's no silicon or anything else on this panel, it's just a sort of fairly raw panel. So it's a sort of fairly densely packed piece of kit for its day, and say about 2005, so sort of 8 years old, so not like super ancient, but quite a lot of effort for a rather gimmicky and not actually very useful piece of kit, I think.